Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Unscripted Exchanges. I'm
Yes,
Hayden Huber.
I'm Cole Hazenfield. Welcome to Unscripted Exchanges. We're
You,
ready to rock today.
you kind of cut me off there. Did you drink too much
I
coffee today?
did, but I'm really excited, and my voice sounds even more clear today.
I think this is going to be the best podcast that we've put out there thus far. We've got some updated audio, and as you can tell, we have a live video feed today.
Yes, live video feed. This is not staged. This is normally how we record. So, ready to go. Ready to go today.
This is the studio that you can see behind us as well. We've got a lot of great stuff up on the board behind us. So hopefully that doesn't bother too many of the viewers out there, but a lot of good motivation on the board.
Hey, we're trying to keep things light, but we're ready to rock. So we can jump right into it then.
That's right. Well, Cole, today is still the weekend, but how the heck is your weekend going? I know you're a busy man with all the kids running around the house.
Yeah, my weekend's great. Friday, it's always a challenge, right? So I've got the two daughters I've talked about. Friday night, my wife was at work. She works at Children's, and so I had the 3-month-old and the 7-year-old for the night, which was it was very fun. Don't get me wrong, but you run little challenges like, hey, if you move too much when the baby's sleeping, you turn into the absolute devil to them. So you get crying, you get smiles, you get all types of things. But that was a good Friday night. Saturday, I had very good, productive day. And then this morning, I went to church, and that went really well. And I left there feeling just rejuvenated and excited. So good weekend so far.
That sounds like a great weekend, a well-rounded weekend.
What about you?
Yeah, I went to service or church today, and definitely learned some good lessons from the homily. But to be honest, I don't really remember all the details, so maybe I just lied to our viewers.
Yeah, maybe you did, honestly, but hey, it's okay.
Do you think in order to be a good person or to get into heaven, if you believe in an afterlife and that sort of thing, that going to church is all you need to do?
No, you just hit like a really good. That was a good one. That was good. That was a good softball for me. I would say that there are a million different ways to do it, and it's not necessarily cookie cutter. It's about what works for you. For me, it is not the just going to church piece of it. It's more of the practicing the right habits, believing the right things. Also, not just going to church and saying, "Oh, great, I can go, binge drink and lie to whoever I want because I prayed to God today." That's not how it works. So, uh, again, we could totally dive into this if you want, but I don't think that's has any bearing. One of the things that our pastor at Crossroads, I go to Crossroads here in Cincinnati, unbelievable organization and church, and talk about taking action versus just saying things or just going through the motions. It's about going out in the world.
I think you got to practice what you preach. I think, or my philosophy, like you said, there's a million different ways that you could believe in, getting to heaven would be just being a good person. And being a good person is, doing the right thing, even though it's going to be a challenge at times, and you're going to have temptation. But as you mentioned, this is definitely a pretty hot topic and a topic that could probably really take up the entire podcast. And maybe that's something that we talk about it in the future.
I think we should get into that in the future. I'll leave it with this. I don't believe that there is, again, one way to go about it. I think it's more along the lines of, you said, being a good person. For me, my opinion in my life is the feeling I get of being in that community in church and bring that into my household with my daughters, my wife, and having that in a relationship, and also not feeling the judgment that there is a right way to do it. So I think there's, like, again, it's a loaded thing, but
totally. I think a parallel here, though, is like, how do you get on the same page with someone, like, as we were just talking about being a good person? Like, what is your definition of being a good person versus what is my definition? And I think that's where, whenever you get into a topic or a conversation with someone, whether it's business or unprofessional, like, you have to start with like a shared understanding of your topic, or definition. And I guess maybe it's more so in a business setting where if you guys aren't aligned on what your definition is, then you're going to have a whole bunch of problems.
Well, right. What are your morality standards, right? So like if one of them's over here, one of them's over on the right, and I'm not talking politics here, guys.
I'm sweating over here whenever he talks about politics.
Don't get left right on me. But what I'm saying is I think you're spot on. It's if you can't find that center, and I guess again we can get into that. I think we should do a whole episode on that. I don't want to spend too much time on it right now. Not that it's not a super important topic, but for me, again, and I think for a lot of people's lives, there's not one way to do it, but having a path or center to be able to say, okay, if I pour this in and this in, and I do this and this, or don't do this and don't do that, that's to me being a good person. But again, that's totally subjective.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, that was a Bible study brought to you today by Cole and Hayden. But
yes.
I think certainly we should reserve an episode for a deep dive into morality, church, etc. And one last parting thought, though, on this particular topic is I think it's certainly acceptable to, if people don't want to believe in an afterlife or a God, that's certainly fine as well. I'm not going to be that type of person that's trying to cram certain information or philosophies down people's throats. And I think that's something that you and I have talked about. We don't want to just be one-sided here. We want to have a healthy conversation. Now, every once in a while, we might lean more one way than the other, but we definitely want to try to capture things holistically. So I thought that would be something worth sharing.
Yeah, remember we're humans. We're people.
We're trying to figure it out as well. We're not perfect. So anyhow, we'll get off our high horse there. Going back to what I did this weekend. So yeah, yesterday evening, kind of took it easy. Nothing too special, but I did watch a pretty interesting movie on Netflix. I believe it's called Don't Look Up. Leonardo DiCaprio stars in it.
People have said I look like Leonardo DiCaprio.
I don't believe that for one second.
I mean, it's been said.
Were they inebriated?
No, there was like several people that have said either that or Brad Pitt. I mean, it's kind of a mix. It just depends on the day.
Wow. Yeah.
I think
definitely think they were under the influence of some type of substance.
It's a smile.
Okay. All right. Anyways, I watched that last evening, and it's definitely a thought provoker in many different ways. Overall, I thought the storyline was pretty good, but something that I wanted to bring up is just the fundamental question of like, are we too distracted as human beings? And I don't want to ruin it for those who haven't seen the movie just yet, but essentially there's a lot of distractions. And there's a very big event that takes place, and some people don't believe it to be true. They don't take it seriously. And a lot of it just has to do with, constantly being inundated with information. And I think that is a reality today with just social media.
Absolutely. So I'm passionate about this topic, and the movie's very, very good. I actually haven't finished it yet, so I don't know how it ends.
Let's not ruin it for the listeners as well.
I don't ruin it for me is what I'm getting at.
I didn't share any big news, did I?
But the underlying theme you hit on is I think it's a good, a little bit deeper dive conversation here. So
yeah, is social media or just are there too many distractions in the world?
I mean, that's a loaded question, right? Because I think my outlook on media, and actually bringing it, we just talked about church, but it was actually spoken to today, and so we can say I heard this somewhere, but the topic was media and all the different media outlets we've got, and how much time we as humans spend in those media bubbles, right?
So we're living in a digital world more often than we're actually living in the physical world and having face-to-face conversations like you and I. This is 1,000 times better than you and I talking over FaceTime. And don't get me wrong, FaceTime is great. There's a time and place for that, but it just is much more meaningful to actually be physically present with someone.
Absolutely. And I think, so you guys fact check on this. If you Google, this is what I heard this morning, if you Google how many average minutes does a person spend on social media, I think it was a day. I don't quote me. I'm pretty sure it was a day. Just media outlets. It was 666 minutes.
Wow. What's that equate to? It's a lot
That's
of
11
hours.
hours.
Wow. So basically
11 hours
half
of
the
our
day.
day.
Yeah.
And now all that media is not bad, right? But it's not negative. And don't get me wrong, I like to be entertained too.
Sure.
This is media. This is media. And if you're listening to our podcast,
the irony here is you're listening to us on a platform, but hopefully we're educating and sharing some, unique perspectives at the same time. So it's not all just like mindless content or information.
Right. So I guess, Hayden, since you brought it up, what do you think about that theme of, are we too distracted by social media? Are we, I even follow with one more question. Are we not taking enough time as people, as a generation, to I guess, analyze might be the wrong word, but determine what media outlets and what we are spending our time on, and then what's not good for us, or just what is, again, a cop out to say we're busy.
Right. I mean, I'm not going to have the right answer here, but I have an answer for myself and how I treat social media sites. And that's just trying to find that healthy balance and understanding how frequently I'm using them. At the same time, what are my intentions of getting on, let's say, Instagram? Do I really need to be checking in every 5 minutes? And trust me, I've done it in the past, and I got into this unhealthy habit of literally pulling out my phone and going through just this cycle of checking Instagram, then heading over to Facebook, and then heading over to Twitter. It was like a loop. And then literally 5 minutes later, I go and do the same thing. Did I really miss out on anything? What had changed in those 5 minutes? And at the same time, what was I getting out of checking those social media platforms? So more recently, over the past couple of years, I've been very cognizant of how I've used my time on those platforms. And I would say that I recognize that those are primarily tools for myself to personally market some products that I might be selling. Looking back at my clothing company back in the day, definitely pushed a lot of inventory through Instagram. But I'm not the type of person that needs to be in the know on everyone's lives. I would rather have, a conversation out and about with people to actually hear that, hey, look, I did X, Y, and Z over the weekend. I had this big life event, instead of, having it blasted out there on the internet. And if you think that's the right thing to do for you, do that. But I find myself constantly comparing myself to others. I think we all do. And at the same time, just mindlessly scrolling at, content that really wasn't adding much meaning or value to my life.
So I'm not the only one that does this, to be clear. What you're getting at, and it sounds like you've had the same experience I have, which I'm still working on it. I will go into I'll get into phases.
You and I don't have the right answers.
And it's not. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no. Hey, if you're scrolling through social media, like, you're a loser. Like, we're not saying that.
Not at all.
We're not going that route. But it made me think of when you were talking about the cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about the cycles I've gone through, where I'll be on, like, Facebook, for instance, right? I'm scrolling down and I'll close out of it, and then 30 seconds later, it's like, I'm sure I missed something.
Yeah.
But here's the thing I never do. How many times did you actually click on something and read the entire thing? Because that is, for me, that's my problem, is like, okay, I'll scroll through, but I'm not even, like, stopping long enough to look at what I'm scrolling at. And then when I do a stop, I'm like, oh, cool. I read 3 words of it, and I'm trying to, and then I'll exit. It's like, okay, so now it's like
our attention span is literally like 3 seconds.
You're not even using your brain, right? You're not even, like, looking at now you're just like, you're literally not even using, you're not even reading.
It's the dopamine. Like you said, you literally see something that catches your attention for a split second. It's like, oh, I go into that, and you're like, oh no, wait, I want to go back out and already look for something different. Like, we're constantly craving novelty or new things. And I think social media is making us dumber to be completely
to an extent,
like,
right?
you said, you aren't even using your brain there. And like I was describing a few minutes back, like, I literally pulled out my phone like 5 minutes later, and I think I was being a little bit generous there. 30 seconds later, it's like, what the hell am I doing? I literally just have my phone open here, and why am I going back into the same thing that I just did? So that's kind of why I think social media is making us kind of lazy and dumb. and we're constantly trying to get that, rush of adrenaline or dopamine because we're trying to find something new constantly. That's why there's that doom scrolling is what they call it, where you're constantly just looking at the next post.
I'm guilty of this.
We all are.
I'm guilty of this too. I'm gonna make a confession here. I was really bad at sharing like articles and pictures and stuff that would I'd share them with colleagues, or I'd send emails or with family, where I'd be like, "Oh, you got to check this out. This is great." And I didn't even read it.
I was just about to say,
and I didn't even read it. I saw the title of it. I'm like, "That looks great. I'm gonna act." And it's kind of not even acting, but it's kind of like, "Oh, like this guy must read that." I'm thinking they'll be like, "Oh, like." They want to have a conversation with me if they actually did read it. Most of the time, people don't read that stuff. They'll act like they did. Oh, great. Thanks for sharing. They don't even open it. But when they do open it, they're like, "What'd you think about that too?" I'm like, "I'll get back to you on that."
I have certainly done that a time or two. And if you haven't, that's great. But I feel like a lot of people out there.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm thinking I've done that before.
But at the same time, though, what if you're sending something that has a catchy title, but the content inside of it is something that you don't align with, or it's just completely wrong?
Off.
You're right. So it's like you should probably take a look at what you're sending out to others before you do so.
The bad part is most people won't read it either. So then it becomes a cycle. Then it's getting shared, and it's like
right. And do you think people though are totally out there just wanting to get through as many different, news sources or articles or social media photos versus actually taking the time to look at quality? And I guess I probably could have framed that up a little bit differently, but I think, and I'll answer my own question, people just want volume over the quality of the content that's being put in front of them.
Well, it's creating a lot of generalists, not experts, right?
Yeah.
So it's creating a lot of I know a little bit about this, a little bit about that, and I read the first paragraph of this. So I'm a crypto expert, or I'm this expert, and it's I'm going to post about it. But yeah, I think it's volume, and I think it's also understanding what you're using that media for.
Yep.
So if hey, for me, Instagram Reels. So I deleted TikTok because it was becoming a problem for me.
You weren't worried about the Chinese government spying on you, and
that's totally.
We'll save that for another day. Or maybe
when we interview somebody from TikTok, we'll talk about that.
All right.
But I think for me, it was I deleted that because I'm getting nothing out of this, and then I realized with Instagram.
Talk about distractions. TikTok though, you're literally getting served up 3-second videos or 6 seconds, and
And don't get me wrong, they were entertaining.
Oh, they are.
But you'd look at you'd be like. Okay,
2 hours later, yeah. Oh shit! I haven't done what I needed to do. I was supposed to take out the.
And your brain
dog.
is numb. Your brain is numb.
Right.
Your brain is numb. But you can pick good content.
Do you know what's scary though, too, at stuff like that? And I got to get this out there. Is you literally watch all this content, or you try to process the information, but the moment you exit out of, let's say, TikTok, I can't really remember what I just watched. Do you ever have those instances, or maybe it's just me and I've got some serious memory issues going on?
All the time. I mean, and there are things. So I'll say for all you listeners out there, you can get some really good recipes, home cooked meal recipes. If you follow the right one on TikTok and Instagram Reels, I love that.
Again, you can use those platforms in the right way.
I'll walk away from it going, what that was. I was laughing at some of them. Right. Some of them I watched 5 seconds of, and I kept scrolling. And again, that scroll. But now I realize that I like to follow a lot of hunting stuff on Instagram Reels. I'm just gonna hunting. It's
a passion of yours, yeah.
Yeah, wildlife is cool. There's a lot of cool videography and stuff that's posted. And so now I've kind of got rid of TikTok and I switched to okay, I never even looked at Instagram Reels. But I'm okay, I can actually, now that I've never used Instagram as a way to overdo it on media. That's just it's Facebook 100%. Instagram, I always just kind of start to following my friends and things I'm interested in, which is good because it wasn't intentional. But now I'm getting my Instagram reel curated to media that I think benefits me. I mean, stuff about being a parent, about raising kids.
Well, that's part of the algorithm. That's what they want.
But that's the beauty of it is I got kind of lucky because I'd only ever used it for that. But so there's the flip side of it is now you can get some good content that might benefit you for me, I mean, like I said, a bunch of, I can sit there with my daughter and we can watch videos about horses and learn stuff,
Certainly.
which is neat.
And I think that's what we're getting at is social media is fine to use. It's just you need to understand, or at least we think you should treat social media as a tool to probably learn more than just mindlessly scrolling through and just wasting your time. But at the same time, and I'm kind of contradicting myself right after this, is it's certainly all right to do that from time to time. But I think too many of us, and I'm the first one to raise my hand, are out there literally just constantly looking at just silly videos that really don't add much meaning to my life. But every once in a while, you need a pick me up, and you can watch those stupid silly
And
videos.
they're hilarious.
But if you're 2 or 3 hours into it, and it's like, oh shit, I was supposed to be a little bit more responsible today. You start to second guess yourself in terms of why am I constantly on these platforms?
Well, it's being a creator versus being a consumer, and there's a balancing act.
Heck yes, there is.
I mean, for we're gonna jump all the way back to New Year's resolutions. One of my resolutions, I'm throwing one in here now.
Yeah,
we're about 8 days in. As I want to be more of a creator than a consumer, and that's just a personal choice. So
did you steal that from my New Year's resolutions from 2020?
You said storytelling this year.
Yeah, you're right, and you've got a great memory. You're actually listening and processing the information. That's something that I need to work on.
Well, you've got it written on the board back here too.
Oh, well, that helps too. Yeah, to go along with what you mentioned there, I want to produce more than I consume. Because I certainly in the past was a big YouTube junkie where at night I would be constantly watching YouTube videos for 2 or 3 hours. Now, again, I started to watch some informational YouTube videos, which was great. And then there was a lot of stuff that didn't really add much value to my life. So it's like I was kind of wasting some valuable time in the work week where I could be doing other things to better my life. So yeah, I think it's important to recognize that you can certainly find yourself distracted on a lot of different social media platforms, YouTube, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, why don't you as a human being share your story and create content or material that might resonate with other people
and it can be funny. It can be
it can be anything.
I mean, so what we're trying to get at is the listeners like go out and make some content. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah, stop listening to us. Actually, no.
Don't. Yeah, like, share, follow.
Yes, hit the like button.
Yeah, like it, share it, follow it, listen.
We need the algorithms.
Laugh with us. We gotta be popping up in news feeds. Like that's what we need.
But back to the topic of just being distracted in social media. Like I have been doing some research myself because I've been fighting that battle, and I've stumbled upon a really good book called Deep Work, and I actually have it to the left of me here. And I don't need to do a book synopsis here, but essentially my takeaway, at least from the book, is recognizing that, and again, I'm kind of just repeating myself here, but there are so many distractions out there, and social media is one of those catalysts that lead to that distraction. And you need to find time in your life to do deep work. And deep work is really defined as a time where you have literally zero distractions or very few distractions. And this really hit home or resonated with me. I've been working from home the last 2 years with the entire pandemic, and I have my phone, or I did have my phone with me in the office. And I was constantly pulling out my phone and checking, my social media accounts, and being distracted. Like every, let's say,
smartphones make it so hard, though. They do.
What do you mean?
They make it hard. They make it hard to do that deep work.
Oh, exactly.
Because they're there.
And that's
because
what
they're there.
The author of the book was kind of getting into, is like, you need to remove those distractions. So for me, and I'm not telling everyone needs to do this, I have deleted the social media apps off my phone because that is kind of the gatekeeper for me getting into those sites. Now I can still access them on mobile web, which I do from time to time, but that was a step in the right direction for me. The other thing is I have put my phone in a completely different room because if the phone is in my room, I still have that urge or that craving to want to pick it up and look at things, which is sad. And it typically is, again, something that I don't need to be doing, but it is definitely distracting me from getting into deep work and doing what I need to do.
Well, I think it's a catch-22 for that because deep work, I'm following what you're saying, but you're not saying it's sad that I can be connected to people with the phone. You're saying it's sad that I feel that urge to have to check all that other stuff.
Correct.
And pull myself instead of like being, okay, here's what I got to do. Here's what I focus on. Because it's also like, sounds like it's kind of peaceful, right?
Yeah.
You're able to go, okay, let me focus on one thing.
Right. And some jobs require you to be on the phone and use your phone. So I'm not advocating that you don't need to use your mobile device.
You're just giving an example of what you've done. For me,
like having that mobile device, I had those apps on my phone, and instead of going into like work email to be productive, I actually have Twitter right here. Why don't I go check out, what's trending or what my followers are saying for a couple of minutes? That won't be that big of a deal. And then I find myself doing that for 10, 15 minutes when I could have been knocking out a couple of emails. And emails, I mean, this is another sensitive topic or debatable topic. That isn't necessarily work.
It's easy to ignore them.
Right. So the point being is just recognizing that social media has its pros and cons and trying to find that healthy balance. As Cole and I have, described here, we're not perfect, and what we're advocating isn't something that everyone needs to do, but it's definitely worth keeping into consideration, having that healthy diet with social media.
So I want to jump back to the deep work though.
Yeah.
Because I haven't read the book at all. I think I saw a post or something you did about that. Like, hey, you've gotten into this. It's a really good read. And I'm wondering, like, can you take that principle of focus and of that, like that intentionality to dive in and give your whole, it sounds like attention and effort into one thing, right? Deeper meaning, and I haven't read the book, so like you might want to fill in the blanks for me. Well, I'm wondering if that applies to like yourself as well. So deep work for me, I'm drawing correlations would be I started hiking about 6 months ago on Friday, like Saturday for late Fridays. I would go out for a 3 or 4 mile hike, and I would leave my phone in the car, and I had my watch on, my Apple Watch. That way I could take calls with my wife near me, and something, God forbid, happened. Right. Because I'm going to, I'm walking out on East Fork State Park.
You didn't want the Sasquatch to get you or anything like that.
Well, you never know. I mean, you got to at least. But I started.
Do you have beef jerky on you just in case? So
I usually bring Slim Jims.
Oh, those are even better.
Yeah, no, not beef jerky. Slim Jims and a Red Bull. By the way, great combo for an outdoor hike. I don't know how healthy that is, but
I'll get you a little
sugar free. But I use that as a way to work on myself and focus on everything else around me and not being distracted. And to me, I'm just drawing this correlation. Can that be from your point of view, can that be tied across multiple avenues, not just work, but I mean, you're a big fitness freak. I mean, in a good way.
I'm trying to be.
No, I mean, you've got a real regimen, and you've got a routine, and you've also got the discipline to do it. But it seems from the outside looking in, and just from our conversations as we're being around each other more and more, you're doing deep work in the gym too.
Yeah, I would say that's probably some of the deepest work in my life. And again, it goes back to being disciplined and having very few distractions. So when I'm in the gym or running, I'm not trying to do other things. And another topic that is brought up in the deep work book is just trying to multitask. And humans really aren't meant to multitask. We can do it, don't get me wrong, but both things are going to suffer because you're trying to do two things at the same time.
So my wife's listening to this because she always wants me to multitask with stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I can get to it. And it's like I try, but you don't do as good a work when you're multitasking, right?
Right. Like try having a conversation with someone, like verbally speaking, like to your wife, and trying to text at the same time. You're going to end up probably typing what you're verbally speaking,
and you're pissing your wife off. My wife bless her heart.
She puts up with it. That's the most rude thing to do. And I'm not up here trying to act all high and mighty because I've done it myself. I think whenever you're out with someone, you should try to keep your phone off the table. Like if you're out for dinner, because it's just it's a distraction. I know we're kind of beating a dead horse here. I don't even like to put it on the dinner table, for me at least, because again, I get that urge to want to pick it up and do whatever the heck my mind wants it to do.
So let me ask you, do you think this is a good idea for me? Because I'm struggling with the deep work thing.
Yep.
I get into the gym. I try to get in it regularly. I try to get in a routine. But what happens to me a lot of the time, and I don't have a home gym, which is something I want to like start building out. But what happens to me is I get there, and if it's lunchtime, like when I'm working from home, I like to go like right at 12:05 and work till about 12. Work out to about 12:45, 12:50.
Yep.
Or if I go before work, I go at like 7. But what's happening to me, which I did not used to deal with, and this might be just circumstances, right? Having 2 kids, having a full-time job, having a wife, having, you've got all these distractions, and you can allow them to distract you, even though most of the stuff when I'm going to the gym I don't need to be like texting people. I don't need to be responding to stuff, but I find myself doing that. So I guess for our listeners and for me out there is like, what do you tell yourself before you set your phone down and go, we'll do that workout? Or do you use like an iPod? Are you going back to like this cassette players? I mean, should I get like a CD player and take it with? I can put a little like a side hip thing, maybe, or wear a fanny pack and put my phone in there and lock it for the workout. I don't know.
Hey, I think any of those options could potentially work out for you. But for me, I don't always bring my phone into the gym. But I have speakers. I actually have a gym in my house, and I'm pretty proud about. So I don't have that distraction of just people being around and talking to me. But at the same time, it's good sometimes to have those people that you see in the gym motivating you. It's like, oh, they're lifting this weight, then maybe I should be trying to lift that. But at the same time, you can argue that that can be bad. But anyhow, I try not to bring my phone into the gym all the time. And I am very disciplined in terms of, okay, today is Monday. This means that I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And trust me, it takes a lot to get there, but it all starts with having a plan in place and actually carving out time to do it. And it sounds like you're getting there with continually working out around the lunchtime hour. And I think that's a good way to continually keep it up, is just having a routine and knowing that, okay, from 12 to 1 or whatever time it might be, this is dedicated for me to better myself physically and also mentally by working out. And in order to do that, I need to make sure that my phone isn't constantly buzzing or going off, because I'm here to get in the gym and get better.
I've had this big problem of like starting conversations with people. So I just need to, it's something I think I'm gonna try more deep work, because I'll walk in the gym, start hitting the weights, and then I'll be like, let me text a buddy. I'm like, what am I?
Right.
But is that maybe that's a way for me to like distract myself from the gym?
Could be.
And not actually get, and maybe it's something I need to just push myself to just get in there and do the work. So I wanted to bring that up, because I've noticed that you've got that great routine, and that's something I want to work on. So
yeah, and one last thing that I'll share with that is like, what's your why for going to the gym? Everyone has their own why. Now, there's a lot of similarities out there, but there's got to be a reason for why you want to be in the gym.
Headspace for me.
Yeah, well, I think that's a big thing for a lot of people.
Right. Then I screw it up, because I'm like, I'm trying to get the headspace, and I forget that that's what I need.
Right.
And then I don't get the headspace. So you're definitely right on that. The why.
I mean, certain activities should serve certain intentions, and going to the gym isn't a place for me to go talk or text people. It's for me to actually lift weights, stretch, or do whatever's on my plan for that day. Mm-hmm. And if you're, again, going back to multitasking, trying to hold conversations and also try to lift, you're going to suffer at doing both things, because you're not physically present on what it is you're set out to do.
Right. You're going to get half the results.
Exactly. So yeah, that's something that I've picked up over the past few years, is just a healthy lifestyle of working out. And more recently, nutrition is a big thing as well. But I think that's something that we dive into in another episode. I know we've kind of been letting it rip with a lot of social media stuff today, which has been great. And fitness and health is certainly a topic that we can deep dive into, and we can certainly have some additional experts or guests on that can share a lot of healthy information for us.
# let it rip.
Let it rip.
Let it rip. Hashtag.
If you can count how many times we've said that in the past 3 episodes, we will send you a gift.
We'll send you a gift.
Feel free to reach out to us at unscriptedexchanges@gmail.com. We got that up and running.
Or our Instagram, unscripted_exchanges. Like, follow. Tell us what kind of content you'd like to see as well and what you'd like us to talk about. Again, we are picking topics and having free-flowing conversations. So what would you like to hear? What can we do to engage and educate and make you laugh? Let us know. And we're going to continue to evolve and change that and add to that as we go. And we'll do some fun like gift giveaways and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I think we got something in the works coming up soon.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Stay tuned is right. Well, you think it's time to wrap things up for today?
I think we let it rip. There's one more for you guys. So I would ding. We need a little like bell that we do when we sing that.
That's right.
Yeah, like a little like elevator bell when we say it. It goes off.
I gotta invest in one of those. Where can I find one of those? I guess on Amazon or something.
All right, let's wrap it up, guys. I'm gonna end with this. Have a great start to the week. Wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, go out, kick some ass, take some names, do some deep work. Engage. Don't just be a consumer. Be a creator as well, in whatever facet that is, and let it rip. Let it rip.
And share the Unscripted Exchanges podcast.
Let that rip on your social media platforms.
Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, guys.